Well, it's time for a mini midweek special in our Premier League previews because Luton Town have got a rearranged game this Wednesday. Not an ideal time given the injury list at the moment. So we are going to be looking ahead to Bournemouth versus Luton, which is a huge game, certainly for Luton on Wednesday night, but also for Bournemouth, probably statistically one win away from safety guaranteed. So they'll be looking to get things wrapped up early. I'm imagining it'll also be quite an emotional and poignant night with Tom Lockyer likely returning to the stadium, not obviously in a playing capacity this time, but to thank the fans in what was one of the most remarkable days of football I've probably ever seen back in December. Of course, we are talking about Bournemouth versus Luton, a game that has carried over, despite over an hour of it being played back in December. It was the game, of course, that became infamous for Tom Lockyer collapsing on the field before probably an incredibly emotional 45 minutes in the stadium. It's certainly the weirdest atmosphere I've ever seen in a ground, and I think a lot of Luton fans will probably thank Bournemouth for what happened. And there's probably going to be a little bit of a bond between the clubs extended because we were both down there in the heavy points deductions in League Two back in 2008-9. Now we're up in the big league together, and it was a pretty special moment, whichever way you look at it. But of course, there's not really much time for sentiment, is there? Because for Luton, they played Bournemouth twice before the end of the season, and they are two games that realistically have to be targeted in the bid for survival. Let's start by having a look at what happened to both of these sides at the weekend. And of course, we'll have a look back at the hour that was played in December as well, but I'm not sure quite how important that's going to be, given the number of players from that Luton have out. So I was at Crystal Palace versus Luton on Saturday, which was a bit of a bizarre game, actually. The first half was among the poorest we've played in a very long time. I think we're starting to see the strains, both physically and mentally, of the defensive players having to play every single game because of injuries. Of course, Doughty, a mistake for the first goal. Osho wasn't at his best. Mengi came off injured. Osho limped off later as well. Reece Burke did okay, and Touchwood was fit at the end of it, but we know from history with Luton that he doesn't often do more than 4 and 5 in a row without picking up a knock. The only benefit to come after this week is there's a huge international break, which is going to be great for most of our players. However, the next 3 days for Luton are crucial because it's not just about this game on Wednesday night. Forest at home on Saturday. They're now starting to look like the most likely team to catch. And that is going to be a really important game too. So how many players can Luton get fit? Can they eat back an Adebayo? Can they eat back a Lokonga? Even for Saturday, because then you know that you can put these players out on Wednesday and say, thrash it out, go as much as you can, and then we'll make changes on Saturday. So it's going to be a huge weekend on that front. But the second half against Palace was all right. Luton were in the ascendancy. They did a lot more going forward. They gave up a couple of chances. Kaminsky saved the bacon yet again. But Palace, surprisingly, probably sat off the last 15 minutes or so. They made changes that were more defensively minded. And in the end, just invited a little bit of pressure and counter-attacks and set pieces late on. Townsend came on, delivered a wonderful cross from the right-hand side. There's a really great header from Corley Woodrow, who again, we've had this discussion before. We've had a bio with Pelly, with several others this season. Another player who's been written off, told that how many fans wanted him out in January. He scored a massive cup winner. And now he secured a massive point in a league with a really great header. And that's something that's going to be crucial moving forward because the more points Luton can pick up in the short term, they can stay in touching distance for those final 5 games, which on paper are all a chance of being winnable. So maybe not the most impressive Luton performance by normal standards, but certainly an impressive result. Great to see Zach Nelson making his Premier League debut, the youngster as well. And for me, I said the same as I did against Villa, actually. Probably the biggest positive for me was the January signing, Hashioka, who came on at centre-half, left centre-half, which is certainly not his ideal position, but actually looked pretty comfortable in both the back 3 and the back 4 towards the end, which was a real positive for the football club. But you've got to look at the bench now, and we're talking about 2 goalkeepers, 2 youth players that had never played before until yesterday. It's certainly not an ideal scenario, is it? And with 2 more injuries at centre-half, if they can't make it, are we almost even going to be forced into a back 4? Because I'm looking at Burke and I'm looking at Hashioka, who will almost certainly make his first start. But other than bringing maybe Pelly in at centre-half, I don't see what else Luton can do because Osho and Mengi, one of them has to make it. If they're both a little bit fatigued but okay, do you give one of them 45, the other 45? I don't know. But that's going to be the biggest concern. Will Luton be forced into changing shape? Or maybe they'll have to put Kabore centre-half or Bene right wing-back. And ironically, before the game was postponed or suspended during December, Kabore was having the game of his life against Bournemouth. His name was being chanted for the first time and he was really flying. And that's another hope that Luton can take, because the first half against Bournemouth, they were magnificent back in December. But Bournemouth were coming back into it and had obviously just got the equaliser before the game was halted. For Luton, without 5 or 6 centre-halves, it's a huge concern, especially against a team that, while it's not in the best of form, Bournemouth haven't won a game in some time. They are a team that have got a goal threat, and they proved that again against Sheffield United, coming back from 2 down late on to get a result. Sheffield United, as we know, firsthand from last month, far better on the road than they are at home. But they still couldn't win the game. And in the end, Bournemouth got the result they probably deserved based on the sheer number of shots on target. But they offered up a huge amount to Sheffield United as well and got caught on the counter just as we did in the previous game. They dominated possession, which we saw they were starting to do in the second half against us last time. And this is a game between two clubs where a manager is overhauling the style, and they're doing it after just over a year for Rob Edwards and just over 8 months for Iraola. They're two managers that are evolving a style of a club, and Luton's has been hampered by injury at the minute, but Bournemouth, they've still got a very good side, and at their best, I would expect them to be a real threat. I'm actually more worried about this game than I probably was in December, purely because of the state of the squad at the minute. And I just feel if there's any doubts on people like Mengi or Osho, if Bell's not coming back, if Chong's got a knock, I just think they'll be rested for Saturday, because if you lose to Bournemouth and beat Forest at the end of this week, it's probably a better outcome than vice versa. So I do expect Luton to go for it as strong as they can, but as Rob Edwards alluded to post-match, it is not the strongest 11 Luton can put out, not by any means. And Thomas Kaminski's going to have one hell of a game if Luton are to have a chance in this one, especially given the centre-halves we've got out. It's not just about the quality of defender, it's about the pace at the back as well. Burke and Hashioka, not quite as quick as a Ted and Mengi, not quite as quick as a Gabe Osho. And against the front line with Solanke, with Cliver, with Semenyo, whoever else they choose from out of that lot, Sinistera an option as well. It's going to be very tough. Very, very tough. In terms of score prediction, I am probably edging towards Bournemouth. I know they haven't won a game in a while, and I know Luton have got great spirit. Unfortunately, I can't go this time for the rearranged game because it's a Wednesday night rather than a Tuesday. But I'm really hoping that Luton can pull something out the bag. I would take any result that's positive, a draw or a victory. If I'm being honest with you, based on the squads available at the minute, I would probably edge Bournemouth to win it. Only just, but I'm going to go by 2-1. I just feel we're a bit too depleted at the minute, but I know never write Luton Town off. I'm going for 2-1 to Bournemouth, but as always, get your prediction in the comments below. Let me know what you think the score will be. And if you beat or match my prediction, you'll get a shout out in the recap on Thursday as we look back at all of last weekend's fixtures and the result that happens on Wednesday night. We'll also look ahead then to the weekend action, including that big 6-pointer against Nottingham Forest for Luton. For now, though, I will finish slightly differently to normal because I know for Luton fans, players and staff in the stadium on a very difficult day, the way the Bournemouth fans and the whole club reacted has made a real difference. And hopefully Tom Lockyer will get a rousing ovation as he gets to wander through the stadium on Wednesday night. But thank you very much for watching this one. If you enjoyed it, chuck a thumbs up on it. Let me know your score prediction in the comments and subscribe and turn that notification bell on for another busy week to come. A full championship prediction list coming on Wednesday. We had a special yesterday for a one-off game tomorrow night as well. We'll also be back here on Thursday with our full Premier League weekend preview. In the meantime, though, all the other links and playlists up in the eye above, and a couple of days to go with the HelloFresh sponsor down in the description below. But thank you very much for being here, for watching along as always. I'll see you back here on Wednesday for a full weekend championship prediction show.